everybody. Welcome to Deep Fat Fried.
The fuck?
I don't know.
What was that?
I just try to keep the intros something.
You always pick a character for your intros, and I'm always trying to like picture which character you're going for, and that one I don't know. Like I don't know. What were you picturing in your head with that one?
I don't know. I don't know.
You didn't have like a picture.
I don't know that I had
like
a mental picture in my head or anything.
I gotta call you on these intros, TJ.
What's up?
You said you were gonna go. We even talked about it. You're gonna do those old school intros.
All right.
I'm doing it well.
Oh yeah, the old school intros.
Okay.
Yeah. Wow.
Where you wrote like a little blurb, you know.
Well, let's come back, TJ.
Remember back when we put effort into the show, TJ?
Remember back in the day? Yeah. Maybe. I don't know.
That was your one job we ever gave you on this fucking show, TJ.
What is mass hysteria? I don't know.
It seems so hazy now.
The haze. I remember the first episode we did was Tim Allen.
I expect your fucking intro. I expect the intro from you, TJ. I refuse to do the rest of the episode.
Okay.
Okay, so you know.
Tonight on Deep Fat Fried, we talk about mass hysteria, such as the time. I don't know. No, I don't know. I got nothing.
He's got nothing.
I got nothing.
He can't do it anymore.
I lost it.
Damn, TJ.
I done lost it. Uh-oh, Sky, your internet looks fucking shitty again. You gonna drop. Then I'm gonna go into mass hysteria, dude.
He's fine.
It's just my version of OBS fucking up, so it's all
cool.
Good.
He's fine. So as you might have been able to guess by TJ's totally limped dick attempt at an intro.
Mass hysteria!
What is mass hysteria? People acting weird and stuff.
Imagine if you take solo hysteria and then apply it to the mass. When you have mass hysteria.
I'm like a 30s gangster.
So this quote that's on the screen in particular has been running through my head a lot. Because I don't know why, but I've been listing off to people when I go on Discord or I'm doing my ideologies. I'm kind of fond lately of listing off all the ways that we're fucked.
Yeah.
And I always weave this one in. You know what I mean? Dogs and cats living together. Mass hysteria.
Yeah.
So it's been on my mind lately, which is why this show was born. Because I was interested to find out about some incidents of actual mass hysteria and really what mass hysteria is. So I'm gonna light some incense real quick, and then we're gonna be good to go.
Ooh.
I gotta have some incense going. I'm a dirty hippie. I gotta smell like patchouli oil and shit. Otherwise, I'm not right. I'm not right in the head.
Even then.
What's the type of incense, Paul?
This one I'm burning is like a vanilla kind of incense. It's got like a little bit of a vanilla scent to it.
Vanilla.
I've got all kinds. All right, we're ready to go. So do you guys know what mass hysteria is technically?
Yeah, it's just when a bunch of motherfuckers go ape shit crazy.
Kinda.
Okay, well that's my understanding. Refine my understanding.
A large, or well, I guess maybe like a sizable group of people feel compelled to do a certain action, or has a kind of a shared psychosis, like they believe they saw a miracle or something, or they have an urge to move or do a certain activity.
Kind of as well.
Okay.
So these terms are applied primarily to the psychic epidemics, which have at times swept through an entire population. These disorders should not be classified as psychoses, but as psychoneuroses of a hysterical nature, which were induced by the effect of the crowd on the predisposed person. The atmosphere of superstition, ignorance, and intense religiosity predispose unstable individuals to this form of collective hypnosis. The term mass hysteria, therefore, seems to be more apt than collective psychosis. But mass hysteria is kind of an outmoded term. It's not really called mass hysteria anymore.
Yeah.
It's now referred to as mass psychogenic illness.
Wow.
Neat.
Because hysteria is an inherently female and kind of also an outmoded term in the medical community. Like hysteria used to be kind of what they blamed on, when women acted crazy. They were like, oh, she's just being hysterical.
Yeah.
So
we locked her in the mental ward. She started screaming. She's going into hysterics. It's like, wait, what?
So mass psychogenic illness involves the spread of illness symptoms through a population where there is no viral or bacterial agent responsible for contagion.
Just a brain bug.
This is really weird shit. It's distinct from other types of collective delusions by involving physical symptoms often. Adrenaline is a typical response factor to emotional stress. Unfortunately, it tightens the capillaries, thus degrades one's health. According to a couple of guys whose names I'm not even going to try to read, mass hysteria is, to date, a poorly understood condition. Little certainty exists regarding its etiology. Qualities of MPI outbreaks often include...
so here's the list of symptoms, huh?
Right. These 8 commonalities seem to accompany, in some combination, all of these outbreaks that have been studied.
I dig it. Let's hear it. 8
Number 1.
Conditions or 8 symptoms or whatever.
Symptoms that have no plausible organic basis.
My eyeballs have fallen out of my head. Ah!
Right.
Okay.
Symptoms that are transient and benign.
My foot kind of tickles.
Symptoms that have both rapid onset and recovery.
Oh, my arm! Okay, it's fine.
Right. Occurrence in a segregated group of people.
I don't know how to fucking pantomime that, or I guess it wouldn't be pantomime because I was using words, but, I don't know how to do an impression of that, so.
You go over there.
These things tend to occur when the populace of these segregated groups are under extraordinary anxiety.
I got it.
Anxiety seems to be a driver for these. Symptoms that are spread via sight, sound, or oral communication.
That's
Number
weird.
7, a spread that moves down the age scale, beginning with older people or higher status people, and then kind of trickling down from there.
Now, that's a weird one.
Right. And then 8 is actually a preponderance of female participants. So in one way or another, females, now it's not always, and all 8 of those things that I listed don't necessarily accompany every outbreak of psychogenic illness, but these are commonalities that have been observed thus far.
Right.
Like I said, this is still to this day not very well understood in the psychiatric community.
It almost sounds like, like we're talking about like a computer virus or something. Like it infects people, but not in like a physical way, but in a mental way.
It's an idea. It's like a viral idea or a meme. It's like a meme that takes root in a segregated community and goes out of control.
Yeah.
And kind of trickles down from what people look up to as the authorities, the older people and the powerful people in that community. And it trickles down from there. So I thought I'd start with probably one of the most well-known incidents of mass hysteria ever, the Salem witch trials that went on in 1692 and 93, back when America was still
awesome.
A group of colonies.
Back when America was still cool.
So in Massachusetts in the late 17th century, there were actually 2 Salems. One of them was a bustling, commerce-oriented port community on Massachusetts Bay known as Salem Town, which would later evolve into modern Salem, Massachusetts.
Okay.
And roughly 10 miles inland from it, a smaller, poorer farming community of some 500 people known as Salem Village.
Wonder which one the Salem witch trials happened in.
I bet you could probably guess. The village itself had a noticeable social divide that was exacerbated by a rivalry between its 2 leading families. The well-heeled Porters, who had strong connections with Salem Town and its wealthy merchants, and the Putnams, who were looking for greater autonomy for the village and were the standard bearers for the less prosperous farm families. So,
So there's like a strong dichotomous social division that splits this small farming community in half, basically.
The poorer people are kind of on one side, and the guy that's got ties to the rich and wealthy merchants in the big town 10 miles away is on the other, and the families are kind of divided amongst one another.
But a very tense sort of like, classical standoff of rich versus poor. But I mean, what do you need to solve that? I think we know the answer.
So the panic and the fear over witches hiding amongst the colony began when two young girls named Abigail Williams and Betty Paris started to develop strange symptoms, including having fits and screaming in pain at mysterious times. They were obviously assumed to be possessed.
Of course. Natural diagnosis.
In the midst of all this religious and political controversy, there was also a major racial incident.
Uh-huh.
It involved a woman by the name of Tituba.
Tit.
Tit.
Oh, whoa.
You can pronounce your name
Tituba.
Tit Tuba, too.
A most likely South American slave from Barbados, who was the first victim of Salem's witchcraft accusations. Tituba initially denied the claim that she was a witch, but notoriously later decided to confess that it was true and accused two other women as well in the process. Kind of interestingly enough, Tituba herself survived the witch trials and was not hanged.
Well, they're just like, she's just a heathen anyway, you know?
Right. So pretty weird there. Probably stimulated, and this is a very probably because nobody really knows what caused these little girls to start acting weird. But it is assumed by some that they were stimulated by voodoo tales that were told to them by Tituba. Paris's daughter, Paris was a leader in the community. His daughter, Betty, age 9, and his niece, Abigail Williams, age 11, and their friend, Ann Putnam, about age 12, began indulging in fortune telling.
Mm-hmm.
In January 1962, Betty and Abigail's increasingly strange behavior, described by at least one historian as simple juvenile delinquency. So this is kind of overblown in the community. Right. It might have just been them being rebellious.
Kids are acting up. Witchcraft. Right. Witchcraft.
Came to include fits. They would scream. They made odd sounds. They would throw things. They contorted their bodies and complained of biting and pinching sensations. Looking back with the perspective provided by modern science, some scholars have speculated that the strange behavior that these little girls displayed might have resulted from some combination of asthma, encephalitis, Lyme disease, epilepsy, child abuse. I mean, it's all over the fucking map. Like the basic answer is we don't know. One of the most interesting ones that we will hear about, again, by the way, it's not the only time we'll hear about, is that they might have been infected with the fungus ergot, which can elicit vomiting, choking fits, hallucinations, and the sense of something crawling on your skin. LSD is derived from ergot.
Give me my ergot, guys.
Dude. Hey,
the bugs! The bugs are in my skin!
Rye bread. It's going to get us fucked up.
I don't know if this is true or not, but I think that ergot is also what is added to what's that drink?
Absinthe?
Absinthe, yeah.
I know wormwood's in absinthe.
Yeah, wormwood is in it. I don't know
about ergot, but maybe.
Yeah, I may be wrong.
Ergot, maybe.
So on May 27th, after weeks of informal hearings accompanied by imprisonments, Sir William Phipps of the governor of Massachusetts Bay Colony interceded and ordered the convening of an official court to Oyez, that means to hear, and Termine, to decide, in Salem town. Presided over by William Slaughton, the colony's lieutenant governor. The court consisted of 7 judges from the community. So there were a number of women that were initially accused, and then, of course, women would point the fingers at other women. I mean, that's what happens when something like this breaks out. That makes no sense. You know, people start pointing the finger for leniency, and all of a sudden, you know, these people believe they've got this coven of witches living in the town. And you can see in a lot of the pictures, a lot of the times, the women that are pictured as the central figures are pointing their fingers at other people in the community.
Yeah, it wasn't me. It was Rumpelford Penderdink. You know,
right?
Wasn't me. Yeah. Well, of course. In a lot of these cases too, there was financial motivations. If people want to, because like, I believe,
well, of course.
I believe in I'm not sure if this is necessarily for Salem, but I've heard before that in some of these trials, you would actually inherit the property, or the state would inherit the property. Whoever accused them would end up getting their shit. So there was actually also a financial incentive to accuse people of witchcraft. Now, also to save your own skin, too. Like, hey, you're accused. But it's kind of like they do with police now. It's like, hey, where'd you get these drugs? If you tell us where you got this shit or where this happened, then we'll let you go because we want to get them. We want to get the person that's higher up. So
right. Of course, yeah. So it's very convenient to have something like this to levy against your enemies in town. You know what I mean? So, of course, that drove this as well. The accused were forced to defend themselves without aid of counsel, of course. Most damning for them was the admission of so-called spectral evidence. That is, claims by the victims that they had seen and been attacked, pinched, bitten, contorted by specters of the accused, whose forms Satan allegedly had assumed to work as evil. So witnesses would come in and say a specter of, Mrs. Connolly appeared and bit me in the night.
Yeah.
She's a witch. I mean, that shit was considered evidence in this court.
That cunt's a witch, dude.
Even as the accused testified on the witness stand, the girls and young women who had accused them writhed, whimpered, and babbled in the gallery, seemingly providing evidence of the specter's demonic presence. So the accusers would act up in court, and you see that pictured here.
Oh God, she's still attacking me. Ah!
Right.
It's like, look what's going on here.
Those who confessed or who confessed and named other witches were spared the court's vengeance, of course, owing to the Puritan belief that they would receive their punishment from God. Those who insisted upon their innocence, actually innocent people, met harsher fates, becoming martyrs to their own sense of justice.
Oops. Yeah, you should probably just have confessed and blamed some other people.
So, yeah, you can go to the next picture there, TJ.
Sure thing.
On October 29th, as the accusations of witchcraft extended to include his own wife, Governor Phipps once again stepped in. So he's the guy that created this court, and then all of a sudden his wife gets an accusation. He's like, wait.
Whoa. Wait a minute now.
halt these fucking proceedings immediately. So he immediately halted the proceedings of the court as soon as his wife was fingered. Fingered. In their place, he established a superior court of judicature, which was instructed not to admit spectral evidence. So as long as spectral evidence was being used against people in the community he didn't like, he was fine with it. But as soon as somebody said, hey, Judge Mr. Phipps's wife showed up and bit me last night as a specter, he was like, wait a minute, this is bullshit. No more of this evidence.
Spectral evidence is garbage. We all know this.
Trials resumed in January and February, but of the 56 people that were indicted, only 3 were ever convicted, and they, along with everyone held in custody, had been pardoned by Phipps in May 1693 as the trials came to an end. 19 people had been hanged, and another 5 had died while in custody, basically just beaten to death in custody.
Yes, torture.
Right.
Cool.
It's
about time.
In the years to come, there would be individual and institutional acts of repentance by many of those involved in the trials. In January 1697, the General Court of Massachusetts declared a day of fasting and contemplation. That's the old version of thoughts and prayers, by the way.
Yes.
For the tragedy that had resulted from the trials. That month,
it's a little bit more than thoughts and prayers, because at least you actually you literally have to actually do at least one thing. You have to fast.
You have to not eat.
You don't
at least tell people you're not eating.
I'm not eating. Give me that bacon.
That month, Samuel Sewall, one of the judges that sat on the original court of Oyez and Termine, publicly acknowledged his own errors and guilt in the proceedings. Nothing happened to him, of course. He was just kind of treated like a for admitting.
Guys, sorry that
I mean, like, when the whole community basically goes batshit insane, like, it's kind of hard to hold any one person accountable for what happened, right?
Sure, of course.
That's true.
In 1702, a number of years later, the General Court declared that the trials had been unlawful. Finally,
no shit.
So we finally get a court ruling saying that this was bullshit. In 1706, Ann Putnam Jr., one of the original girls, apologized for her role as an accuser. 22 of the 33 individuals who had been convicted were exonerated in 1711 by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, posthumously, of course, which also paid some 600 pounds to the families of the victims. In 1957, the state of Massachusetts formally apologized for the trials, which I'm sure
Yeah, that really very meaningful. Yeah,
helped all the people that died hundreds of years earlier. It was not until 2001, however, that the last 11 of the convicted were fully exonerated by the courts.
oh, justice. The wheel of justice turns slow. You know.
So there you go.
I love how I love how like just like a scant few years after they did this, everyone was like, "Remember when we
Oh man!
remember when we did that witch trial shit? That was
That was bad.
That was kind of fucked up. What was that about?"
Maybe like the midlife crisis shit that happens in modern times ain't so bad. It's all like, I bought a sports car and now I'm acting kind of like a dick. It's like their way to sow those oats was like, them girls there, they're twitching. Why are they twitching? Witches!
Yep. Burn them all.
Kill them all.
You know what they say? If she twitch, she a witch.
Damn.
So that's what I've got on the witch trials. You guys ever heard of the Halifax slasher?
No.
So this happened in 1938
Okay.
in Halifax, England, and this is a picture of the kind of neighborhood in which this started.
Yeah, Paul, I gotta correct your pronunciation. A lot of people in America think it's pronounced Halifax. It's actually Hubbardstoneshire.
Oh, okay, my bad. Sorry.
But we can just go with Halifax. I just want to make sure.
I'm going to go with Halifax because I'm just so bad at really pronouncing these names properly.
Yeah, it's really, it's difficult.
Bad. But
So a more personal case of mass hysteria occurred in the town of Halifax, England, a town in West Yorkshire. West Flablutonshire.
Yep, that's right.
Beginning in November 1938, reports were made to the police regarding a man attacking people, mostly women, with a mallet or knife. The number of alleged attacks grew to a size unimaginable at the time by local law enforcement. So it was like one or two things started coming in, and then all of a sudden the police stations were just swamped with people who would claim to be attacked and cut or beaten with a mallet.
He attacked me with a mallet or knife.
dude, you know what they needed to do? It's obvious, man. They need Charles fucking Bronson. Put Charles Bronson on the fucking streets of, what do you call it, TJ?
Habenderrenshire.
Put him on the fucking streets. This fucking guy is done. He's dead.
The number of alleged attacks continued to grow over the next week. More people came in claiming to be attacked. This is actually a picture of a dude being dragged away by the cops to be questioned.
Oh, he did it. You can tell.
He definitely was the one.
Look how short he is.
Yeah.
Short people are evil. Everyone knows
I bet those pockets are filled with mallets and knives.
Oh, my God, yeah. To the brim. To the fucking brim.
So he started being referred to by the public and the press as the Halifax slasher. And police said that there could be up to 3 different men who are actually perpetrating these crimes because of the just sheer amount of people claiming to have had a run-in with him.
Oh, yeah.
Businesses started to shutter their windows during the day and in the evening times. Vigilante groups formed, sometimes just attacking people in the street who were suspicious, quote unquote.
I don't like the look of you, you fucking Halifax slashing motherfucker.
Right.
And
eventually law enforcement officials put in a call to Scotland Yard in London for help. They were like, we can't handle this shit. Like, the fucking community is going insane.
Shit's going nuts.
Help us out. And so 2 detectives from Scotland Yard got there around November 29th to the absolute melee in the streets. Halifax had gone completely insane with this by that time. Those police soon became suspicious of what looked like self-inflicted wounds on many of the victims. It didn't take long for several of those claiming to have been attacked to admit that they had indeed faked their entire encounters with this phantom perpetrator.
Mm-hmm.
In early December, a local newspaper proclaimed the theory that a half-crazed, wild-eyed man has been wandering around attacking helpless women in dark streets is exploded. There never was, nor is there ever likely to be, any real danger to the general public. The authorities concluded that all of the alleged victims had made up their claims in a bid to garner attention or pity, although they allowed that many of them may have actually believed that they were attacked. Due to the kind of spread of this kind of idea. Now, as you can imagine, of course, in 1938, there was probably a lot of stress amongst people in smaller rural towns like Halifax.
We're stressed out.
You know, it's just it's kind of the thought that we have in modern times. Like, shit goes viral, dude. Just like being attacked by this guy went viral. It's like, I got attacked. No, I got attacked. No, look how I got attacked worse.
Right.
I mean, it's just it's your one-upsmanship. It's like everyone starts doing it. You don't want to be left out. Were you attacked by the fucking slasher? No. Oh, that's kind of lame. Everyone wants a story.
It was passed by word of mouth for sure, for a very long time. And it caused a giant panic that ended up being total fucking bullshit. Let's move on to a different continent. Let's move to the African continent and Tanzania.
Tanzania.
Which, in 1962, experienced a laughter epidemic.
Doesn't sound so bad.
Yeah, maybe not, maybe so. It seems that laughter isn't just a joyful noise, TJ. It can be a signal of distress, spurred by anger or sadness or intertwined with mania. The most famous example of a laughter epidemic happened in Tanzania, which was then Tanganyika in 1962. But this kind of psychological behavior happens on a weekly basis around the world, particularly amongst populations experiencing chronic stress. So these types of laughing epidemics, quote unquote, actually happen way more often than people realize, usually in really poor, really economically depressed, stressed out populations, i.e. the types of populations that nobody ever sees on the news or hears about.
Yeah.
I don't buy it. Everything's happy.
So this 1962 outbreak began in a girls' school and then spread to other communities with uncontrollable laughter affecting perhaps 1,000 people and lasting several months and causing the temporary closure of 14 schools. Most cases of mass psychogenic illness begin with one single individual. In this case, it was one schoolgirl who fell into a fit of anxiety-induced laughter. This set in motion a chain effect until the girls around her were also engulfed in desperate laughter, and slowly it spread beyond their school and their region to other at-risk populations in the area. Here's a little video about it.
Dude, it's like everyone became Beavis and Butthead temporarily.
Yeah. Let's turn our cams off.
Good idea. Good idea. Coral.
Especially poor families are getting very much stressed.
Well, I came over to see what was going on. Children started laughing. They're just laughing. It is a crazy laughing, jumping all over the place. All of a sudden, there was an epidemic. Laughing disease, kashasha here.
Thousands of people in the nation of Tanzania would start laughing for no apparent reason. For days, even weeks, it became known as the laughing disease. The laughter would spread from village to village until thousands of people were laughing in Tanzania and Uganda.
She trembled. They were just swinging, laughing with so loud laughter. Like that.
We took all the blood samples, went to Europe to find out if there was a virus. You know, they thought about differential diagnosis. There was we say NAD. Nothing abnormal detected.
Mad.
So yeah, I guess you can.
They say laughter is the best medicine, but what happens when laughter is the disease?
So sufferers of this.
Can you really call them sufferers, though, Paul?
I mean, well, it wasn't all a bed of roses.
Yes, it was, Paul. It was wonderful. Everyone was laughing.
They laughed, Paul. They
So why
laughed.
don't you listen to what actually happened?
All
How's
right.
that?
I'll listen to what actually happened,
tell you
Paul. Wee!
Symptoms included recurring attacks of laughing and crying that lasted from a few hours up to 16 days.
Tears of laughter.
These fits were accompanied by restlessness, aimless running, occasional violence,
Cool.
but there was no evidence of any organic cause. Christian Hempelman of Texas A&M University, who's done research on this incident, describes the laughter epidemic as a case of mass psychogenic or sociogenic illness, a malady that has the capacity to strike in a variety of high stress settings. The stress factors here among the schoolgirls may have included, as you can imagine, the unfamiliar expectations imposed in the British-run schools, uncertainties created by then Tanganyika's independence, which was achieved barely a month before this incident. So it was a time of political upheaval and turmoil. And the prevailing wisdom is that it was stress that drove this, that the societies and the communities that were in this area were just under a ton of stress, ton of new things that they didn't really know how to deal with. And that's kind of what happened.
Like psychologically, that's how they were able to process it, was just by having these fucking hysterical laughing fits and just expressing all these different emotions. And
Right.
a lot of it was crying too. So it's like, I'm happy, I'm really horribly depressed. And, it's like just going back and forth and having just no, I think people like to feel in control. And I think it's just like when you're in these events, it's like these people don't have that sort of control. Like they're just, like you said, they're sharing this, like, not the psychosis, but like the neurosis.
Sure.
Yeah. Just these neuroses. It's just, I mean, look, it's like, just like, the coronavirus can spread from people sneezing on each other. I mean, we all have fucking brains that are not really, at this point, well understood by science. And obviously, we're getting more and more knowledge in that field. But, I mean, there's still a lot of variables and questions. And like the guy said, they set these blood samples in. Like, is this some viral thing or something? It's like, nope, we don't know.
Nothing wrong. Yeah, you can imagine, too, as this spreads and as more people start to partake in the mass laughing, that it is reinforced and feels better for people. Because it's like, look, everybody's fucking going through this, Yeah. Very strange case, but once again, something that happens quite often in the third world. Here's one that kind of hits close to home. You guys ever heard of the Louisiana twitching epidemic of 1939?
Oh, hell yeah, I have. No, I haven't heard of it.
Oh, gee, I want you to take over, man. So you knew about it.
Yeah.
Everybody was twitching.
I thought you knew everything about Louisiana, boys.
I do. I know everything.
Heard of the great twitching epidemic.
That's why I know. I can tell you right now, ain't never been no twitching epidemic here in Louisiana, boy.
Was the time they all twitched them toes? Is that what happened?
You made this up.
Twitch.
Ain't never been no damn old twitching epidemic in Louisiana 1939, no boy.
For 13 years straight.
I'd have heard of it if it happened. It didn't happen.
So during the springtime of 1939, one school in Louisiana experienced a massive case of twitching amongst its female students. The epidemic began after one girl experienced uncontrollable twitching in her right leg during the school's annual homecoming dance. The girl's twitching attacks worsened considerably over the coming weeks. Less than a month later, some of her female friends and classmates also began to have twitching episodes. The arrival of frantic parents who took their children away only fueled students' fears of the twitching disease and caused a massive stampede where people were actually injured. It took a full week for shit to finally calm down.
Damn.
So pretty crazy shit. So what caused the twitching? Was it something in the water? That's possible here. We got a lot of waterborne illness here, especially you can imagine.
It was mosquitoes, damn it.
They just wanted. I'll tell you what, Paul. They just wanted to fucking dance, dude. They wanted to dance and they couldn't dance.
Maybe so.
Put on your red shoes and dance the blues.
Oh shit! The town doesn't want these girls can't dance. Dancing's immoral. It's against what God wants. Her leg just starts twitching because she wants to fucking dance.
Well, it's actually, as investigators found, a way more mundane but slightly weirder explanation. Investigators studied the case and found that it was really nothing more than attention seeking by a lovelorn girl. Patient zero, a senior named Helen, was a poor dancer and constantly worried that she might lose her boyfriend to a more skillful dancing freshman. They concluded that Helen's subconscious solved this problem by producing a painful twitch in her leg, which also enabled her to be excused from her much-loathed dance classes. A case of killing two birds with one stone. And so the idea started with her as a way to escape something that she was not liking, just to escape an idea in her mind that she didn't like having. And it spread to her friends. And pretty soon a whole fucking school was filled with kids who were claiming to have this twitch that they didn't have. What do you think about that?
I want to start some mass hysteria somehow.
Yeah, I mean, how do you be patient zero in one of these?
Yeah, because it seems really awesome. So I want to try to fucking start one.
Yeah.
Well, you need to find a very stressed group of people first. The people who are relaxed and shit, ain't gonna work on them.
How can I find stressed people in modern America?
I mean, yeah, it'll be so difficult. You know, you'll have to look far and wide.
Yeah, it's gonna be fucking. I'm gonna have to really fucking search.
Yeah, good luck with that, TJ. You're not gonna find anyone.
Oh,
like
dude, you
that.
know what we should try to do is like we should start like fucking become DFF patrons disease. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Everyone just, I can't help it. I'm logging on to Patreon. I'm giving them all my money. I'm becoming a patron. Oh no, I just can't even help myself.
Nice try, TJ.
Let's do it. It's not a nice try. We need to figure it. Come on, let's figure. You know, this is why.
Let's get it figured out.
This is why nothing happens for us, because we think of a good idea like that, and then we're just like, yeah, let's fucking get on that. No, we need to fucking plan this shit out. Plan this shit out. Someone out there figure this out for us for once.
All right,
you fucking
TJ.
lazy bastards.
Well, I think that you should spearhead these efforts.
I ain't
TJ.
thinking of it. I'm lazy.
You figure out how to do this.
TJ, we have full faith in confidence.
We talked about this during the Satanic Panic episode.
We did. I was gonna say this is a subject that we have covered before in the Satanic Panic episode that we did. I wasn't gonna pull it again, but I think that looking at it through a different lens is going to be interesting. I didn't pull a ton of information. If you're interested in a more in-depth examination of what happened in this next story, I can't recommend enough you go watch our Satanic Panic episode. That covered that angle really well.
Oh, yeah.
But as a refresher and as an example of mass hysteria, I think in general, leaving the Satanism out of it, we haven't done yet. So I thought we'd go over really quickly what happened there and kind of the ensuing panic that happened.
Sure.
So in 1983, a mother accused the staff of McMartin Preschool in California of sexually abusing her child. Police, of course, had to take such matters seriously, but the mother soon added a series of allegations that were increasingly ridiculous. The family in charge of the school, the Buckies, allegedly ran a satanic coven. Cool. They not only abused children, according to the accuser, but they sacrificed babies, drank blood, and taught each other to fly. It turned out later, of course, that this mother was an alcoholic, paranoid schizophrenic.
So she has an excuse. What's everyone else's?
But she was patient zero.
The hell
in
is
this
this
one.
shit?
Oh, I don't know. Well, I guess you can just skip to the next picture.
Go.
We got a picture. I got a malformed URL. So fantastic claims included children being forced to watch live executions, rape, torture, and so on. Virtually all of the accused were later exonerated, but not before spending a good amount of time in jail and having their lives essentially ruined. Just what caused this hysteria in the first place? The answer could be found in the parents themselves. As it became more common for both husband and wife to work outside the home, they had to entrust their children to daycare centers and daycare workers, a move that likely increased their anxiety and feelings of guilt. Daycare workers, in effect, became a perfect scapegoat for the parents, helping them to kind of ignore their own shortcomings and not being able to spend enough time with their children. Add that to the false testimonies, shamelessly coerced out of the children by heavy-handed interrogators, and there you have it. Perfect recipe for a 20th century medieval witch hunt. The media was incredibly complicit in making this a giant moral panic.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they were in love, dude. They couldn't.
And this is the thing, too, is, these days, this very same media that started this shit off, that kicked it off in the 80s, now they look at someone like Alex Jones like, look at this fucking crazy psycho. It's like, you guys were literally doing this shtick just a fucking few decades ago.
Right. So faced with all the nonsense that I've told you about these accusations, the media, as we know, obviously displayed healthy skepticism. By that, I mean they declared the Buckies guilty without a trial and stirred up one of the biggest moral panics in American history.
It could be the plot of a horror movie, but it's not. Cults are growing, especially among young people. Find out how to save your kids from satanic worship on the Oprah Winfrey Show. Remember, this bitch still has a career, by the way.
And you covered a lot of stuff in the other the episode you made before, but yeah, it's just interesting to note as well that they had a lot of authors that cash in on these books. Wasn't there a particular book? I'm trying to remember the name of it.
I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah, there was, you can go check out our Satanic Panic episode for all that shit.
Yeah, there was a famous book that was written that helped to, spur these kind of panics, and this panic really extended beyond these sexual abuse accusations to the broader subject of the Satanic Panic, but it is a really good and more modern example of exactly what we're talking about here today. Mass hysteria starts with patient zero. The idea spreads and becomes this giant kind of... I was actually not allowed to watch Dungeons and Dragons, the cartoon, because of this.
Right.
Because of this moral panic that was going on at this time. When that cartoon came out, I was not allowed. In a post-trial analysis, the people that were actually put on trial for this, the Buckies, David Shaw of the LA Times found reams of evidence that a local station, KABC TV and ABC National, and the Times itself had frequently plunged into hysteria, sensationalism, and a lynch mob syndrome. Stories presuming the Buckies' guilt were splashed across front pages of tabloids and main fucking papers alike, while the damning amounts of evidence supporting their innocence went entirely unreported.
Right. And this is all on the basis of a woman who fucking said that they're sacrificing babies, drinking blood, and learning how to fly. And this is taken seriously by the American fucking media establishment.
Accused by a paranoid schizophrenic person. I mean, it's just, because no one's interested in that story. They're interested in the story, like Paul said. You have a bunch of people with just these high levels of guilt, the high levels of stress and anxiety, and really just not wanting to confront that, like, hey, I feel kind of shitty that I'm leaving my kid here for 8 hours a day and I'm not having the relationship with my child. So you know what? The people that are doing that job that I feel like I should be doing, they're demons. They're these bad people. Every bad thought I've ever had about them is true.
Yes. At one point, both local and national news media sources were happily repeating claims of mass animal sacrifices, secret tunnels under the school, and trips in submarines.
Trips in submarines?
Yes.
The reason Oprah was covering this is a response to what people in the country are talking about. So, I mean, yeah, Oprah's a scumbag, but it's also feeding this narrative of all these people that really want this shit. And you guys know that the media, they love to do that. If there's anything that's really like, that really loves demagoguery, it's like, yeah, you can say politicians, but it's the media. The media wants
at least
sensational thing. Do people want to hear? Oh, well, let them click on it, because that's what drives what people click on. I mean, these companies now today analyze this, and they're doing the same analysis back then. If everyone's talking about something, you think they're just going to go, well, there's not really much to that, and it's not factual, and like, you know, they're not going to have all these fucking morally sound principles. They're going to be like, oh, that's where the eyeballs are. Oh, that's where the fucking ears are.
The people behind the Salem witch trials back in the 16 fucking hundreds eventually had to come to terms with the fact that they participated in something that was heinous and fucked up. I've never heard any of these media personalities come forth and be like, what we did in the 80s was fucking...
And there were big names like Walter Cronkite.
I know, it was all your favorites, all the fucking...
Yep, Dan Rather was all over this story every night with an update on it with more I mean, the submarine claim alone was just ridiculous.
For it to be held accountable. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that it takes a complicit media and a complicit populace as well.
Oh, absolutely. But the media definitely helped.
Oh no, the media is the fucking one that fanned the fucking flames. Because like when they just love it. When there's something they can really dig in and really get people's attention, that's what the media is always looking for. That's like the one thing. Like when COVID happens, like, oh my God, we're gonna make so much money because all these people are gonna actually want to pay attention to us now. And it's one of those moments when they don't have something big like that. It's like, satanic worship sounds great. A bunch of fucking uptight Christians or people that have those leanings just hearing everywhere around you there's people out to get you. There's like these forces of evil. You're like a do-gooder. You're not only you're fighting like for yourself, but you're fighting for like the soul of this country. You're fucking fighting against a force of evil that wants to destroy your way of life. That's a narrative a lot of people can get behind.
Absolutely. So all told, the media orgy and the ensuing fucking panic resulted in Ray Bucky, the husband of the woman that ran the initial school. He spent 5 years of his life in prison. And the trial that ensued wasted over $15 million of public funds. Adjusted for inflation, this is still the most expensive trial in the history of the United States.
What a fucking waste of money. We live in a country with like, just take our infrastructure. Like we have deficient bridges and roads and schools, and we spent $15 million putting fucking innocent people away.
Yep.
Right.
So there you go there.
Because of fucking stories about underground tunnels, submarines, flying. I mean, like,
it's ridiculous.
And I wish we could run away from it, but look at, I don't know if you covered this in the episode, maybe you don't. Like, look at that Pizzagate shit. Same kind of.
I didn't, but it's a
but imagine if the
the
Pizzagate shit was being like splashed all over the front page of like the New York Times and like Walter Cronkite or whoever the equivalent is, like Anderson Cooper is doing it and shit.
Yep. So this is probably my favorite example that we're going to move on to next, that we're going to cover tonight. The dancing plague of 1518. Scotty asked me when we got together before we started recording, he's like, did you pull on the dancing plague? Scotty knows a little bit about this one.
Dancing plague.
I love this picture because as you can see from the way that this is portrayed, there's a sexual component to this. There was sexiness going on in these streets.
Oh, yeah.
So in July 1518, residents of the city of Strasbourg, then part of the Holy Roman Empire, were struck by a sudden and seemingly uncontrollable urge to dance. The hysteria kicked off when a woman, once again, patient zero was a woman, known as Frau Trophea, stepped into the street and began to silently twist, twirl, and shake. She kept up her solo dance-a-thon for nearly a week, and before long, some 36 other Strasbourgeois had joined in. By August, the epidemic had claimed as many as 400 victims. With no other explanation for the phenomenon, local physicians blamed it on hot blood and suggested the afflicted simply gyrate the fever away. They constructed a stage so people could dance on it, and professional dancers were brought in thinking that maybe that would, hey, let's bring some pros in to do a little dancing. Maybe that'll settle people down. But it didn't. It just spread further and further. More and more people started dancing.
As it spreads, it gets more social acceptance. So it's like, they claim to be, we're going to combat this, but they build the fucking stage.
Yep. The town even hired a band to provide backing music at one point, hoping that would help out. It didn't.
That's like a hell of a gig for a band to get. This town's gone insane. We think that we can treat it if you guys as this band just like play continuously for the town.
Listen, you got, this is the craziest crowd you guys are ever going to be in front of. Let's just put it that way, okay? What a gig. I
mean, how do you even come top that afterwards? Like, you get paid to play for a bunch of crazy people, and then when I guess when this finally ends, it's kind of just like, no one will ever love us that much ever again. Our lives are meaningless.
Now, make no bones about it. These people were not just like dancing for a while and then taking a break and having a good time. A lot of people just died in the streets. They had strokes, they had heart attacks, because they would just do this for hours. They would just stand in the street for hours. Some of them listening to the band, some of them all the way across town where there was no band, just dancing in the streets until their hearts gave out.
Great.
So the strange episode didn't end until September, when the dancers were like rounded up and whisked away to a mountaintop shrine to pray for absolution from God.
Cool.
That's at least the official rule.
We gave them absolution.
Chances are it probably just ran its course. We talked about the laughing epidemic earlier. And a lot of people think that this came from similar areas. These people obviously were medieval peasants. They lived lives of incredible stress.
Their lives sucked dick.
As a result of that, this one person went crazy and started dancing in the streets, and a couple people joined her, and before you know it, everybody's kind of like, hey, having the same stress response, I guess. So this might sound like the stuff of legend, but it's actually well documented. 16th century historical records mention it all over the place. It's also not the only known incident of its kind. Similar manias took place in Switzerland, Germany, Holland, though few were as large or as deadly as the one triggered in 1518.
Cool.
What could have led people to dance themselves to death? Well, according to historian John Waller, the explanation concerns Saint Vitus, a Catholic saint who pious 16th century Europeans believed had the power to curse people with a dancing plague.
Wow.
So apparently there was a religious meme that there was this saint that could curse you and make you dance yourself to death. That, when combined with the horrors of disease and famine, both of which were tearing through Strasbourg in 1518, the Saint Vitus superstition may have triggered a stress-induced hysteria that took hold of most of the city.
Well, you have to think about like how those people think about it in their everyday lives. Like, oh, you could be cursed by this, like, in this time of like people who are very superstitious, you'll be cursed by this saint and you'll dance yourself to death.
Right.
And you see this crazy person in the streets doing it. It's like, okay, this is starting. And almost maybe there's almost like a fatalistic kind of thing. They're like, if we just do this, we'll die or we won't die or whatever. Maybe it's like almost giving yourselves over to like your religious beliefs is like, that's like a sort of way to resolve the stress in your life, is to say, I'm just going to keep doing this. And if I live, I live. And if otherwise I'm just cursed and I'm going to die.
I did find in my research too, that some people also blame this on ergot.
Oh shit!
So old ergot rears its head again, and this
gotta get us some fucking ergot, man. This shit sounds dope as fuck.
This might have been just like an LSD triggered event. Who knows?
I really hope that's what it was, though. I hope it's not some horrible thing. Just like they all just dropped primitive acid and got really fucked up.
Dude, we got some rye bread here. It's getting fungusy.
Oh shit, dude!
We're gonna get fucked up.
Got some rye bread, TJ? When you coming over, man?
Let's get some rye.
Bring me some of that rye. So this one, we're going to end tonight with one that used to be talked about a lot when I was a kid. I remember hearing about this one a lot when I was a kid. You don't hear about it talked about as much anymore, and there's a reason for that. We'll get to that. But the War of the Worlds hysteria.
War of the Worlds, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I heard about it.
The Orson Welles
this is, of course, young Orson Welles, who I think is a pretty good-looking dude in his younger years.
Good. Yep.
Had an intensity to him.
Mm-hmm.
For those listeners who tuned in to Orson Welles' Mercury Theater on-the-air broadcast from 8 to 9 p.m. tonight and did not realize that the program was merely a radio adaptation of H.G. Wells' famous novel, War of the Worlds, we are repeating the fact, which was made clear 4 times during the program, that the entire content of the play was entirely fictitious. That's actually directly from a kind of radio broadcast that was played after this was played. And indeed, in the original broadcast, it is mentioned 4 separate times throughout the broadcast that what you
I've
are
listened
hearing,
to the original broadcast a few times in my life, and they do warn you quite a bit. Like, this is not really happening. This is a radio play.
What's funny is that like people try to claim the otherwise, like, no, they never mention that.
Right?
Like, no, they do.
So I went when I was young. This was told to me as a story where people listened to this radio play. And there was an actual panic. Like, people freaked out and called the cops. And there was this kind of nationwide panic about the fact that this might be real and aliens might be. I heard that some people took to the streets in desperation. Yeah. And you guys probably heard similar stories. You grew up around the same time as me.
I did.
Essentially all the same stuff. That like the towns are just gripped by panic. Like, oh, this is real. This is happening. Aliens are coming here. Or is this true? Like, but usually just people err on the side of there's an alien invasion. Right.
Unfortunately, when I went looking, and I believed this all the way up until very recently, it wasn't until a few years ago that I started hearing word that there's something spurious about these claims of a panic due to War of the Worlds.
Oh, shit.
So how real was this quote-unquote panic? For decades, the conventional wisdom based on the sensationalized reporting of the time was that the Mercury Theater broadcast had indeed spread mass hysteria from one end of the country to the other. By the 2000s, however, sociologists and historians were kind of questioning the true severity of the War of the Worlds panic. W. Joseph Campbell, an American University professor of communication studies, observed in 2010 that the contemporaneous news coverage was almost entirely anecdotal and largely based on sketch wire service roundups that emphasize breadth over in-depth detail. What does that mean? What does that tell us about this? In short, the notion that the War of the Worlds program sent untold thousands of people into the streets in a panic is a media-driven myth.
This is like marketing, dude.
Yep. That's exactly what it was. It was a media-driven myth that offers a deceptive message about the power of radio and the power that it wielded over its listeners in the early days, and more broadly, about the media's potential to sow fright, panic, and alarm.
I mean, you can't. I mean, like, this made Orson Welles number one, and two. I mean, like, this is why radio play terrifies nation.
Mars invasion thought real. Hysteria grips folk listening in late.
I guarantee you, this is a headline every major fucking newspaper in the country. So then it's like, I mean, that's, you can't even beat that. Like, everyone's gonna want to listen to this fucking program at that point. Like, who's not gonna want to hear this?
But if you want some numbers-based proof that this is bullshit, such data as exists about the listening audience that night supports Campbell's thesis. The C.E. Hooper ratings service reported that only about 2% of national respondents were tuned into Wells' broadcast on the 30th of October in 1938. The rest were either listening to something else, most likely ventriloquist Edward Burgeon's Chase and Sanborn Hour, which was the most popular program on radio at the time.
It's weird for a ventriloquist to be the most popular. Like,
who knew?
Does ventriloquism work over the radio?
I suppose it does.
Okay.
It must, dude. Fuck.
At some point it did, because he was killing it in 1930.
I guess he was. Okay.
Or they were watching or listening to nothing at all. So based on the network's own audience survey, CBS executive Frank Stanton concluded that most Americans didn't even hear the show. But those who did hear it, he added, looked at it mostly as a prank and accepted it that way, if they didn't get that it was just a totally fictitious thing at all.
I see.
This is a picture of Orson Welles actually performing the War of the Worlds broadcast. There's several of these. They're actually really cool pictures. Recapping the event on its 75th anniversary in Slate, media historians Jefferson Pooley and Michael J. Socolow pointed out that few, if any, of the anecdotal reports of hysterical reactions to the program were ever investigated, and almost none of them were ever confirmed. Wire service reports did relay sensational stories of unnamed panicked listeners, and saved only by the timely intervention of friends and neighbors. So there was a lot of these stories of, like, somebody panicked and then a neighbor said, no, it's just a radio play. Go back home. You know, these stories were run everywhere, but none of them were ever verified.
I mean, like, you see the CBS fucking logo right there. It's just a marketing scheme. Like, so it's probably just that Orson Welles is a marketing genius and just figured out a way to get his fucking radio program in front of pretty much as many eyeballs as humanly possible in the country at that time.
Right.
Definitely fucking succeeded.
There was a rumor that several people were treated for shock at St. Michael's Hospital in Newark, New Jersey over this. The rumor was checked and found to be totally inaccurate when the same researchers surveyed 6 New York City hospitals 6 weeks after the broadcast. None of them had found any record of any cases brought in specifically on account of the broadcast. So just total bullshit once again.
Or they did this with The Exorcist too. Is like people like fainted in movie theaters. People just can't handle this. It's like, you know, there's like a certain marketing technique that definitely works with people, where it's just like, this is so shocking. People lost their minds over it.
People can't even handle this shit.
Because people want to know, like, is it going to make me feel that way? Am I going to feel like this? It's like, you know, even knowing it's like bullshit. Like, if some people get so absorbed in shit, it kind of can feel real to them.
Yeah, for sure. There's never been any specific death attributed to this drama. The Washington Post, a big paper at the time and still, reported that one Baltimore listener died of a heart attack from fright after listening to the show.
Yeah. I mean,
but no one followed up to confirm the story or provide any details, including the man's name.
Fuck, dude. He died of fright.
So there was an opportunist, though. One particularly frightened listener did try and sue CBS for $50,000, claiming the network caused her a nervous shock. Her lawsuit was dismissed.
Oh, dude, they should have paid that fucking lawsuit. Like, it's truly so terrifying that we're going to give her like $5,000.
So in addition to
because I would have opened them up
for
for like a bunch more lawsuits in the same vein. So
yeah,
of course.
I know, you're right.
In addition to overblown press coverage, another reason the event went down in history as an instance of mass hysteria was the publication of a book in 1940 called The Invasion from Mars, written by Princeton psychology professor Hadley Cantrill. The book purported to explain the War of the Worlds panic in sociological terms, but suffered from being overly reliant on a skewed report hastily compiled 6 weeks after the broadcast. On the basis of the report, which Jefferson and Sokolow say was tainted by the sensationalistic newspaper publicity, Cantrill estimated that 1 million listeners had been frightened by the show, an impossible number due to the we now know that only 2% of registered listeners were tuned in that night. Based on every other known measure of the size of the listening audience, it's just impossible. Worse, Jefferson and Sokolow wrote, Cantrill committed an obvious categorical error by conflating being frightened, disturbed, or excited by the program with being panicked. So just because you listened to it and you were like, ooh, spooky, doesn't mean you ran into the streets with your hair on fire screaming about the aliens.
You were panicked, Paul. Come on.
Screaming, panicking, running up and down the street.
1 million people running through the streets. Food.
The Martians are coming. The Martians are coming.
I mean, come on. It's all just marketing. It's all just hype. It's just like, oh, this, a big fucking number of people think this is crazy. Whatever.
So was a small percentage of listeners frightened, and maybe even a few of them panicked by the War of the Worlds on the night of the broadcast? Clearly, yes, it did happen to some people. Many of those, it was determined afterwards, had tuned in and listened to and missed obvious clues that it was fiction. And a large percentage of those assumed the U.S. was under attack by Germany, not Mars. But it was an instance of mass hysteria overtaking tens of thousands of people in the U.S.? The evidence pretty clearly shows otherwise. So, no, it wasn't.
Damn, dude.
We end with a fake mass hysteria, which actually should make you disheartened, TJ, because it goes to show you that you just can't create one of these.
Yeah, but wait a minute.
It's got to happen organically.
You know what, Paul? People might not have fallen for the aliens are invading, but they fell for the idea that people fell for the idea that aliens were invading.
They weren't hysterical about it.
Maybe not hysteria.
There you go.
Maybe there wasn't hysteria, but
try TJ. Nice,
the gullibility. But I never said it.
Oh, but TJ's just a little.
No. Because I never said it was hysteria. I said that they did fall for the idea, though. They were gullible enough to fall for it.
Sure, it didn't really cause hysteria. It was just a bunch of misinformed people for a number of decades.
Bullshit. I'll give you that.
And I was one of them. I mean, I believed up until, like I said, pretty recently that this actually, happened in some capacity, and really it didn't.
Maybe it did.
So there you go.
Maybe it did, and the people who are fucking saying that now are the ones who are full of shit.
Big ups to Snopes, by the way, for that last one.
Maybe we'll read in like 10 more years, like, this idea that people didn't panic over War of the Worlds was just a contrivance of fucking, 2020 sociologists who were trying to counter the narrative of mass hysteria by claiming that this didn't happen, but actually it did, and the evidence is overwhelming.
TJ. What a take! What a
you
hot
never know.
Take
well,
from TJ.
You can prove that, TJ. Then I'm willing to.
I didn't say. I'm just saying. That could be the case.
If you can prove anything, I'm willing to listen to it, TJ.
Look, I'm just asking questions here. I was making observations. I'm not saying anything.
I mean, so I'm just saying, like, the sociological wisdom has.
You fucking sack of shit.
What? How is it fucking ridiculous to say, okay, the sociological wisdom flipped the script once. Who's to say I won't flip again? And they'll be like, actually, there was mass panic. We were wrong again.
If you have evidence of it, sure.
Yeah. Why is it up to me to provide evidence? I'm just saying it could happen.
I'm not saying that it's up to you. I'm just saying that
it's not up to me. Fuck you. Quit putting the ball in my court. I didn't fucking say anything. I didn't make no claim.
You basically created a narrative which you did make a claim, and then you're saying, "But I'm not claiming that."
I didn't claim shit.
Get out of jail for. Well, I'm not claiming that. I claimed what I just said.
I didn't claim. Whatever. What do I claim? What was the claim?
What did you just claim? Okay, you claimed that that the paradigm could possibly shift again. And
It could.
Believe.
Do you deny the paradigm could shift again?
No.
Okay. Well, then I'm right. The end.
You're not right, TJ.
The end.
You're saying.
Oh shit! I can't help but dance. Woo!
Shit, dude.
Oh shit!
Well, there's no dispute about that TJ is dead of dancing disease.
He got the dancing disease. Well, fuck. What are we gonna do now?
He's wanting to go smoke one of his fucking hemp cigarettes.
Oh, is that what he's doing now?
They are tobacco and nicotine free. He smokes hemp with CBD oil.
Oh, well,
that's his loophole.
I got it. All right. Well, best of luck to TJ. Hopefully
he's dead or something, or he's gonna be dying.
He's back. Look, he's dancing back.
Dancing back. It's dancing back.
All right. Well, that's a show.
What are you yammering about? Shut up. Shut your fucking mouths. Boo!
All right.
Boo!